Hey everyone, welcome to the latest installment of the DDT Archives. I am Greg. With me as always is my tag team partner in all this, Chris. What's up, bud?
What's going on, pal? How are you?
Doing well. All right, so today's episode, we're going to cover a classic tag team rivalry. You know, we like to do our rivalry shows. We did Austin versus The Rock at WrestleMania, which was, you can check that out in our archives on our iTunes page. But today it's a tag team rivalry, and it's two of the greatest tag teams that ever existed, the Road Warriors versus the Freebirds. And we're going to do something a little bit different. First time we've ever done this, we're going to do a little watch-along for one of their classic matches. So before we get into that, let's talk a little, we're doing this week, and it's a little topical too because the Road Warriors Dark Side of the Ring is coming out on Tuesday night. So we're doing this before that airs, but our podcast will air after that, so we'll definitely looking forward to checking that out. So, do you want to just do a quick thing on Money in the Bank? Just ease into it, just like what you thought of the ladder match moving forward.
Sure. I thought it was creative. I thought they did a really good job of telling two simultaneous stories. When I saw it was done at the same time at first, I was a little skeptical. Look, it's different. It's cinematic. It's not traditional Money in the Bank, but at the same time, they're making the most out of it. They're entertaining us. So you can't say enough about these people that are going out and working and giving their best with no fan reaction immediately. And then the world of Twitter and all of that getting involved in their thoughts never benefits anyone. But as a whole, I thought that part of the show was just straight up really good and entertaining.
Yeah, me too. I thought the fact that they didn't have announcers over it, they just kind of let it go, was a really good move. They didn't have, like sometimes, especially in the WWE, it's if I have to do one knock on it, it's the overselling by their announced teams. And which is, I find and I'll tell you in a minute how I've cracked the code to watching these shows without crowds. But I think that worked. I think they did a lot of some funny, entertaining stuff. There were some good fights in there. I think it was entertaining. I think it was, letting Otis win. When you check off all the people that were in that match, it really, the only two people that were, like, when you think about it, that really could use the briefcase is Otis and Aleister Black. That's it. Everybody else doesn't need it. So when it's a logical choice to kind of strap that onto him. He's extremely over and a talented guy, and he's got a personality, which is a nice thing to see when you look at some of the, and I don't want to bag on it too much because I didn't watch it, but like the Seth Rollins Drew McIntyre match, which was like, you look like there's an archetype to the people to the top guys in that company. They all look the same. They're big, they're strong, they have long hair and beards. It's like am I wrong with that assessment?
Not at all.
Yeah. So it's like when you have a guy that's a hefty fellow who has just a little bit of this over the top personality and a character to him that came out off of WrestleMania, really on a hot streak. It's a smart money play, and to let it see how it plays out, because he's obviously got talent. He can have good matches at a guy his size, and it's something, it's different. And the Twitter monsters out there who always talk about how WWE doesn't build new stars. Well, hey, here you go. There's a new kid on the block that's got like a top prize in the company.
I think as a whole, it's a great move because he's relatable to everyone, and he comes across as loving what he does. And also with his size, he can put up a fight.
Yeah.
I I think this was a perfect opportunity for him to win the Money in the Bank because of the way it was filmed and how it was done. Realistically, if this had been a traditional Money in the Bank, I think Aleister Black's the way to go.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, you're giving the fans what they want. They want to see this guy continue to grow. The only person I feel bad for in this situation is Tucker, who I think is pretty talented as well, and he's kind of left by the wayside.
Yeah, and we'll see where they go with that. Yeah, you're right, though, because he's kind of been like the lost person in this whole story with Mandy Rose and all the things moving forward. So, yeah, that's a good point right there. But what I meant by like the cookie cutter kind of thing is like, you know, they had the match between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, which was a really good match. But you're watching these two guys go, and it's like they're similar, like outside of Drew being bigger than Seth is, it's similar styles, similar looks, similar move sets. Seth's a little bit more of a high flyer, but Drew gets up there, and it's like, you know, it's almost like they were fighting a mirror. And it's like, okay, you know, these guys are really good, but it's just the variety of looks isn't there for me when it comes to some of the men's division. And it's like, okay, at least we got like a different guy thrown into the mix here that could do anything, you know, is believable, like you said, could win a fight to turn some heads. So it's good in that sense. But overall, I thought the show enjoyed it. But I just listen to podcasts now and music while I watch the shows without the sound on. It's so much easier. That's the secret to I know, because it's awkward as hell. These silent matches with when all you're hearing is the announcers and the guys in the ring, and with no crowd, it's uncomfortable. And I'm as appreciative as I am that there is wrestling now, live wrestling now, with everything going on when there's no other sports going on. The fact that they're putting on a show and giving us the best they can is amazing. But I got to listen to music. I got to listen to podcasts. I cannot listen to the audio of the shows. Am I psychotic? But it's made it so much more enjoyable.
So what you're telling the people is to go back to our archives and listen to every episode while watching Raw.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I am.
That will make it very entertaining.
It would make it very entertaining. You can multitask, and it's been great. So, but overall, I thought it was a good show for what it was, and a lot of fun. And if you watch anything, just watch the Money in the Bank ladder match, and like it was some entertaining stuff there. I laughed. I enjoyed it. So
the other thing I would say, in terms of it being weird, I got to imagine the guys in the ring, because there's no crowd drowning it out, hear the commentary.
Like the UFC?
And yeah, exactly. That's kind of where my talking point comes from, is this weekend Daniel Cormier is doing his job, and he's literally giving people advice without realizing it. And two of them won fights because they did what he suggested. And one guy ignored him and lost. So,
yeah. I mean, it is interesting, and I can't, but that's, like I said, you know, listen to our podcast. When you're done with those, listen to somebody else's or some music or whatever. It really helps you like take in the show, and then you focus on the wrestling too. You kind of focus on what's going on, because as we talked about, there's a couple matches that last night, and in particular the Drew Seth match and the Tamina Bailey match, where, you know, we talked about on one of our past shows about how we don't see anybody. Oh, I think it was the Starrcade 85 show. We were talking about the lost art of working a body part, right?
Yep.
Last night, I think it without the commentary distracting me, I was focusing on the actual matches, like really. And Bailey worked Tamina's knees, which was interesting because of her Tamina's long injury history. You have, and then really Seth was working Drew's legs to get, because he's so much taller, to get him on the ground, and it was really it was cool to see that, especially since we just talked about it and we kind of crapped on it a little bit that you don't see that much, but I saw it a couple times last night, so I thought that was an interesting footnote. All right, man. So the reason why we're here today is the Road Warriors versus the Fabulous Freebirds. And before we get rolling, man, what do you, where do these two tag teams kind of rank for you?
In terms of the greatest of all time,
Absolutely.
or in terms of or how I feel about them?
Both.
Okay, so I think the Road Warriors are the greatest tag team of all time. I think they're decorated, they're talented, they set the bar, they were believable, they were scary. Kids were terrified of them in the AWA and the NWA, and then when they go to the WWE and they're the faces, the kids love them. In terms of my favorite tag team, they're probably ranking second behind the British Bulldogs. And that's just personal preference. I don't actually think the body of work proves that at all. But it's what I enjoyed. I think the Freebirds are definitely in the top 10 in terms of greatest teams of all time, but they get hurt by the different varieties of the team. And they also tended to, they were in different territories consistently. Didn't really have a run of any significance in the WWF at the time. So I was limited to watching them when they came into the NWA. I don't think their gimmick ages well whatsoever. But at the time, they were the rebel Southern boys that, weren't afraid to drink alone, would kick ass, take names, and do what they had to do.
Yeah, and I think that where they get lost in today's wrestling is the concept of like the 3-man gang and the faction, because they were really innovative when it came to that. And obviously the Freebird rule is it's a term that's now worldwide. We don't get that without them. We don't get the New Day without the Freebirds. We don't get the NWO when it came to the Outsiders and Six back in 96, 97. We don't get those kind of gang mentality without the Freebirds. So, and they all had different personalities, which worked. So I think and when it comes to the Road Warriors, they were just so dominant and so physically imposing that you have to put them with anybody. Yeah, they're not doing flips, they're not doing any of that crazy stuff, but they'll beat the crap out of you, and they're going to do what they want when they want, and that goes a long way with me, and because that air of believability. But yeah, so a few questions for you that I have and notes that I have before we get into our watch along. We're going to watch a match from 1985 between the Road Warriors and the Freebirds. So when it comes to let's start on the Road Warriors, because like you said, you're a huge Road Warrior fan. Who was better out of the two, Hawk or Animal, in your opinion? Or maybe how about this? Here's an easier question. Who would have been a bigger star as a single?
Hawk.
Okay.
His personality, Animal was okay on the mic. He did exactly what he needed to do. Obviously, they were guided by Ellering the entire time, but I think you could put a microphone in Hawk's hand and he could draw you some money. I think you believed him. I think he could do a few more things that you didn't necessarily have to see out of Animal. Not saying that he couldn't do it, but you saw Hawk do it. they're really the first team where both guys are the beast of the tag team.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say Hawk.
Okay. And then on the Freebird side, it's just we know Michael Hayes was the talker in that group, but Terry Bam Bam Gordy is a guy that just doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to great in-ring workers, right or wrong.
Oh, absolutely. And you have to remember, some of the stuff you're seeing with him is from when he was 16 years old.
Yeah.
He started professional wrestling at 16 years old. He was just a beast.
Yeah.
He dominated Japan. I don't necessarily think he had the mic skills to be dominant in the States. I don't think his Southern drawl draws in the Northeast, honestly. So I think he could have a run as the heel for Hogan, but he would just be that. He would be feeder for him. The person I think that is the most underrated out of that group, though, is Buddy Jack Roberts.
Yeah.
I mean, he could run his mouth better than anybody. He could shut your mouth just as well as anybody. So it was, he was an interesting character.
Oh, absolutely. So how do we get here? So the Freebirds had run all up and down the South. They were in World Class in Dallas. That's another legendary feud with the Von Erichs that maybe we'll cover at another day. And then they had a brief stint in WWF in late '84, and then came up to AWA, and that's where they would run to the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors, they've only been a tag team for about a year and a half, 2 years at this point when we get up to this match. They came to AWA in '84. In August, they beat the Crusher and Baron von Raschke for the titles, and then they would feud with the Fabulous Ones for a while, and later on in the Freebirds. And the Freebirds actually at one point screwed them out of their tag titles when they lost to Jimmy Garvin and Mr. Electricity Steve Regal, who's not the British Steve Regal. It's a completely different Steve Regal. And then, by '86 they were gone, and then they go to Japan and WCW, and then it's off to the races for there. But looking back, they had a couple of really classic matches, and the one we're going to watch is actually not on the WWE Network. So, are you synced up, buddy? You ready to go?
I am ready to go.
Okay, so this match is from September 28th, 1985. It is Super Clash, the first Super Clash. The other 3 Super Clashes are on the network, but this one isn't for some reason. So it is on YouTube, so just search The Road Warriors versus the Fabulous Freebirds. It's September 28th, 1985. It was Comiskey Park, so it's outside in a baseball stadium. And so if you need to pause us and get yourself set and ready to go, do that now. And then when you're ready, bring us back. So we'll do a countdown for when we're going to watch this match. And you may be able to hear some of the audio through my iPad, but we'll see how it goes from there. So you ready to go, buddy?
Let's do it.
All right. Our first watch along in 3, 2, 1. Hit play. So here come the Freebirds in their Confederate flag face paint.
Face paint.
So, like you said earlier, this does not age well. So, what do you think?
The backstory here is Michael Hayes wanted to counter the Road Warriors paint by bringing in their stars and bars. It was something they thought gave them the psychological edge. It does not look good at all.
If you would allow me, as we're waiting for as they're talking to the Freebirds, and we're waiting for the Road Warriors to come out as the Freebirds making their way to the ring. We're hearing Terry Gordy on the mic now. Can I read a quote from Michael Hayes about this from the Ric Flair podcast that I found?
Please.
All right. So when it came to the Confederate flags and its origins with the group, Hayes said, when we came to Texas, the Von Erichs would proudly take a flag from a fan in the audience, and it'd be the Texas flag. And being the nemesis in the storyline, we started taken the Georgia flag, which had the rebel flag in it, which I always thought, just from a flag perspective, was a gorgeous flag. We started making our clothes out of the rebel flags because, hello, we're rebellious. It never had anything to do with being racist. People said, well, they painted their faces like the rebel flag. Well, if you look at history, the first and only time we ever started painting our faces was when we were going against the Road Warriors, who painted their faces and were notoriously known for being in the North. So, you know, like, you gotta, and I'm not condoning it by any stretch of the imagination, but when you think about like the time and place, this is 1985. Like, the Dukes of Hazzard is like still on the air when they had the General Lee, and the Confederate flag is on TV every week. You know, so it's not like that. When you think about it, it's not completely insane. In 2020, it's completely insane. But maybe like Dukes of Hazzard, I just looked it up. Dukes of Hazzard went off the air like a few months earlier than this. But you think about it, same year. But you think about it, here come the Road Warriors with their tag
team. Right by the announcer. They were like, the hell with you.
On the YouTube thing, too, if you notice, it's the old WWE 24/7 logo in the top corner, which is the old pay-per-view service on cable, the preamble to the network. And here we go.
They just hit the ground running, typical Road Warrior style, just start fighting.
I love I love the entrance, too, which is just wood planks, not like a carpet or anything like that.
I mean, my favorite about them coming out, you got Iron Man versus Freebird. Yeah. And this is before the invention of Bad Street. So it definitely jumps out.
Michael Hayes looking for the dugout.
Well, that was the other thing. So you realize why the announcer was standing by the dugout, right?
Why?
Because it's 1985 and they don't have electrical cords long enough to get to the ring.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Well, but how did they monitor? I'm looking at a monitor right there. How did that get there?
I don't know. Are you looking at a monitor, or are you looking at guys with cameras that are taking pictures and going, wow, the Rebel face paint does not age good?
There's a table with a monitor on it right next to the ring. I just saw it.
Well, then you caught something I didn't. I was just making a suggestion.
This is already fun. We're doing more of these.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, man. So wait, the match hadn't started yet? They just fought and they walked away?
No, they just fought, walked away. Do the typical stuff. You got Buddy Jack Roberts on the outside talking trash to everyone who will listen.
His face paint looks like, if you squint, because the video's not great, it looks like the Great Muta.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Michael Hayes running for the dugout again.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
It's amazing how they managed to make matches extend in this Super Clash
without actually having to do anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, the other thing, and I don't know if you caught it early on, when they were interviewing the Freebirds, did you notice that they had a guy actually standing over them, putting his arms over their heads, so that when things were being thrown at them, he knocked them away?
Wow, that's a good eye by you.
I saw it and I thought it was hilarious.
All right, so we got Terry Bam Bam Gordy and Hawk starting off here.
I mean, it just looks like it hurts. I'll tell you what, Michael Hayes was a real good ring psychologist. He plays the game very, very well.
We'll talk about playing to your strengths, right? Not the greatest in-ring worker, but damn, he could talk, and he's arguably one of the best wrestling minds, knowing and the role he's had in the company for years in the WWE for years now. He's one of the great wrestling minds that's ever lived. And it's hard to argue that.
Hawk taking a action, rubbing the face paint off Michael Hayes' face. Love that. So he's the greatest move, does no damage at all, because after all, if your face paint gets smeared, you must be damaged.
What gets in your eyes?
I guess so. Just look at the physiques on Hawk and Animal. Like,
Yeah.
if you saw them in an alley, I think you just fall down in the fetal position and pray.
Dude, if I saw them walking into a McDonald's, I'd fall down into the fetal position and pray. It's interesting how, like, the fans around the ring, if they are fans or just friends, like, there's no seats. They're just standing around. Like, it's... Unless there are seats and they're just standing because this is awesome. I can't tell. Oh yeah, a couple people sitting.
Like they're just standing.
No, there's the closer ones. There's seats there. It's the behind. There's like 3 rows of seats, and the people behind them are standing.
So typical pay-per-view audience, where if you're not in the front row, you have to stand the whole show.
Yeah. Imagine doing a wrestling show in a baseball stadium now. I know the football stadiums are the en vogue thing with the WrestleManias and some of the big arena, and now they have the Royal Rumbles have been in baseball stadiums, and it's a little bit interesting, but I mean, those domed arenas, they're designed to do other things. Like, this is a ballpark.
Yep. And a legit one.
Yeah.
Comiskey has a great history. Ellering and good old buddy Jack Roberts getting into it together. Almost like a 6-man.
Paul Ellering's always changed his look, didn't he?
He did.
He's like,
this is that bleach blonde look that's really weird.
Yeah, but even like the tight t-shirt and jeans, and instead of the coat he had, or I got an ad. We'll pause this part. Did you get an ad? Pause your show.
Yeah, but I skipped it in 5 seconds. The use of the headbutt is something that you don't see as much anymore, I guess, with the age of CTE. But Hawk gave a great one.
Yeah. Oh, the disadvantage of having long hair against guys with mohawks or reverse mohawks.
Yeah. It's funny. You see Terry Gordy being so hesitant to go in for the kill, yet he's a monster.
Yeah.
That just shows you the respect that they have Road Warriors.
Fear.
So looking at Hawk's face paint, which is the better rendition, this or the Joker look?
I like this. The quality of this video isn't great. But no, I like this one. God, Hawk was fast.
Yes. Oh, I was... Gordy with the suplex and just taunting Animal. And then they double team a Hawk. The no tag. Love it. Old school heel tag team maneuver.
See, it's funny when you talk about the Road Warriors. When they came into AWA, they were heels, but the people just love them. And
yeah,
it's just like they were so dominant that there wasn't a big turn. It was just they did the same thing over and over. It's just people started cheering them because they loved them. It's crazy. It's funny how that happens sometimes.
It is. They came in with Reckless in the AWA, and the AWA was dominated by elder statesmen. And that's the nice way of putting grandpas. I mean, the Bruiser and the Crusher, with their beer barrel polka, didn't really have a place anymore. And Hawk and Animal came in and just started tossing them around, and all of a sudden the fans went crazy. Oh, something you don't see anymore, a pile driver. And Hawk gets right up.
Imagine no selling a pile driver.
He does.
That's what I'm saying. I know. That's what I'm saying.
He does every time. But the famous one is when Jerry Lawler did it, and that move for Lawler put everybody out. He does it, and Hawk like Hulk and just beats the hell out of Jerry Lawler. Hawk takes a beating pretty well. You know,
Yeah.
he finds that balance between no sell and sell. Double noggin knocker. Love it. Love the double headbutt. You know, it's interesting in the commentary is they keep referring to him as the Hawk.
I was just going to say
and
that.
The Animal versus just Hawk and Animal. Fly, Freebird, fly. I'll tell you what, for a match that took place 35 years ago, it is a fun match.
Yeah. It is. I've never seen this match before. Like before, I watched a little of it before we, in prep for this, but I've never seen this match before.
I want to say I rented Super Clash back in the day, but I'm not positive. Animal coming in like a madman.
Yeah.
He's got one of the best power slams
in
professional wrestling. That whip-in power slam, he's just monster. You notice Hawk almost knocked Animal out with that clothesline for Michael Hayes.
Both teams they got opposite corners here. Hayes is up in the air getting killed.
Here goes Buddy Roberts. There goes Buddy Roberts.
Better camera work. We should have seen that. It's kind of off to the side.
That's that 1985 camera.
Oh my god, the open chair shot.
Oh my god. Love it.
Oh, there's something you won't see ever again.
that had to hurt.
Oh my god.
I'm sorry, Michael. Didn't mean to punch you in the face.
Oh, jeez.
Look how strong he is.
Yeah.
Just pressing him.
So smooth. That power slam.
My
so
God.
Smooth.
Heck of a clothesline right there. Michael Hayes, though, he's got the knucks.
And there you have it. The
Freebird steal one.
Yeah, this would be a dusty finish.
Using the brass knuckles.
Yeah, but this would be a dusty finish. They would reverse this decision.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and, they will. It would be Vern Gagne getting involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Enjoy while it lasts, guys.
I'll tell you what, though. That was a really fun match. May not be the best storytelling in a match, but just an absolute brawl. You know the Road Warriors can't lose clean.
Yeah.
The fans are going ballistic. The Road Warriors losing in Chicago where they're billed from. Oh, it doesn't get much better than this.
It's perfect. It's perfect. The beer throwing on the Freebirds as they're running back into the dugout.
Oh, yeah.
A good crowd on hand there, man. Look at the upper deck.
Oh, yeah.
There's people up there. There's not anybody in the outfield, but like everything behind home plate.
Well, you have to remember, this is a pay-per-view that included WCCW, the NWA, AWA. So it had some of everybody.
Yeah, this was pretty much their answer to WrestleMania, because WrestleMania was earlier in the spring of this year, the first one, and this was Vern Gagne's response to it to get all these promotions together. There he is. Oh, he's calling for the replay. Early replay review. Vern Gagne throwing the challenge flag.
Welcome to the distant future.
I get another ad.
Yeah, so do I. There we go. Oh, now they're showing the replay. How could you tell from that replay that he's got something in his hand?
Because he shows it off to the crowd, Greg.
No. Please.
Did you not notice him hold his hand out so everyone saw it?
Yeah.
It's actually how you would have to do it in a big stadium. You want someone to catch it, you have to do it.
Yeah, they're not showing the stuff on the scoreboard. And the Road Warriors, they get their titles back. So that's that. And so overall, that was a lot of fun. That was a fun match between two legendary tag teams on at a major show that it's where we're in an age where we're spoiled, where we can find this stuff at the touch of a button. It's not on the network, but it is on YouTube, easily accessible. But wrapping this puppy up, what do you think?
I mean, that's a lot of fun. I don't know if I'd want to do like a full pay-per-view, but I think for a match or two, I think it's a great way to change things up. You have to pick the right matches. You have to have the right teams, the right individuals that stand out and make you want to talk about wrestling. The Freebirds and the Road Warriors are those teams. Oh,
for sure. And yeah, I think I agree with you there that I don't think we can do a full pay-per-view watch along. But when you take a match and you take a story or you take a rivalry, and you can take, a 15-minute match, which is what that was basically, with a lot of gaga here and there, but and break it down and really enjoy it. It's fun, man, and it's I think it's great. And the Road Warriors are just tremendous. And coming up this week, I'm interested to see the Dark Side of the Ring, which is a tremendous series. When you talk about seeing the Road Warriors a little bit in their like I said, the Dark Side of the Ring, it's called. Obviously it's not a happy ending for that tag team. Now they're for the Freebirds. Terry Gordy has left us, and it's a shame. Both teams are in the WWE Hall of Fame. But overall, great characters, great wrestling for the 80s. It's different from what you see now, so I'm glad we got to go back and enjoy this one.
I mean, you got to think about it. They're both two very imitated tag teams.
Oh, yeah.
You go into the NWA, you had the Wild-Eyed Southern Boys. You had other tag teams that were like that. In the WWE, you had it with Southern Justice.
Yeah, and then Demolition, which is...
Yeah, and Demolition, Powers of Pain, Blade Runners, The Ascension, any other team that wears face paint.
The Blade Runners, that was Sting and Ultimate Warrior, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you're right. It's such a fun way to look back on some of the classic things, is what we do best here on the DDT Archives, outside, as I segue, of our tremendous interviews that we have to offer in our Indie Lounge as we go to close out this show. So coming up this week, we had Jackson Stone on the show on Monday, and then on Friday we will have Jada Newman, the numero uno Ichiban, Jada Newman, and that was a great interview. We had a great time with him. So that's coming up on our next episode of the Indie Lounge. But be sure, we have some great interviews on the archives, from Congo Kong to Dale Springs and just many, many more. So any other things you want to plug before some of the other interviews we've done? Go ahead.
I would just say we have something for everybody in our interviews. And we like to think that we take a unique approach and tailor the interviews to the people that we're talking to and help them facilitate their story rather than just question and answer. You go to the first one with Dale Springs, where you see a great up-and-coming professional wrestler in Louisiana and tremendous gimmick and getting where he wants to go. And then you have Congo Kong, who's established and it was a dominant monster heel, old school style in Impact Wrestling, and he's got a great story to tell. And then you go in and Jackson Stone that was the most emotional interview I've ever been a part of, and it was something that I'm as a human being, I'm proud to have been able to share that with everyone.
And then you see this kind of, and then like other interviews we've had, coming up, on Friday we'll have Jaden Newman, and he was incredible and just a guy that you can just tell has it. As well as, coming up in the next couple of weeks, we interviewed Will All Day, and he was tremendous. And there's a guy that's just there's no ceiling for him. So it's been a lot of fun doing that. We have a bunch more scheduled for this week and coming up, and so just stay tuned. We'll give out updates every so often of who we got coming up in the Indie Lounge. We're very proud of that, and it's just getting better and better. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? Want to do your plugs?
Just think we're going to continue to get better. The other one that we didn't mention, there are really two that we didn't mention that really need to be. Jack Jameson is a great interview. We wound up talking for like an hour and a half, just talking, and pulling back the curtain a little bit. Jack and I have become fast friends, and I know you have too. Mm-hmm. And just a great guy with a real unique story, and he's a promoter, so it comes from a different perspective as well. Not just as a talent, but as a talent / promoter. And then, I had the pleasure of interviewing Kylan King, who is one of the top female indie wrestlers in the world today. And just her stories about Billy Gunn and training at Team 3D, just fantastic. And I can't wait for them to be released. Plus the people on the schedule. Yeah. It's going to be, we got a lot of work to do over the next few weeks, but we're going to have a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys get a lot of entertainment out of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good call there. As always, you can follow the show on Twitter at DDT Archives. You can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris_DDT HSLB. Please subscribe to the show. Rate us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. I'm a little behind posting interviews on YouTube, but we'll get there. It's not a big deal, but iTunes and Spotify and anywhere else is up there. You can email the show at ddtarchives@gmail.com. Anything you want us to cover on the show, any wrestlers you want us to look out for, just email us, hit us up on Twitter. DMs are open, but we thank you all for the support of the show, and lots more to come. Big things happening for us, and we're enjoying every second of it. So until next time, just make sure on our next episode coming up, we have Jaden Newman, and we'll see you next time on the DDT Archives.